This video is going to be pretty long, as you would have likely been able to tell from the thumbnail of this video, because, fun fact, it tells you the length of the video in the bottom right hand corner of any given thumbnail on YouTube. So if you looked at that and said, okay, I'll watch this video even though it looks pretty lengthy, then it's probably your fault if you end up watching some of this video and you end up thinking, wow, this is kind of long, isn't it? Yeah, you should have known that before you clicked on the video, right? So this is just like a disclaimer. If you're not into lengthy videos of someone talking about a subject for an extended period of time, then please leave. It'll save both you and I the headache of running into each other in an unfortunate encounter in the comment section. My videos are generally pretty laid back, which means that there isn't much of a rhyme or reason to some of the things I might be talking about in the video. That's just how it is, and that contributes to the length of the video. Like on my end, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse by saying this in the beginning of practically every single one of my What's on My Blank videos, but I still get feedback along the lines of like, why is this video so long? You talk a lot. Like, yes, I do talk a lot. That's why the video is long. I don't know, am I missing something there? It's like, yeah, a What's on My Android video can be 4 minutes long. It can be. There are a lot of 4-minute long What's on My Phone videos, What's on My iPhone videos. That is a thing. But this isn't that. And you can tell from before you even click on the video that it's just inherently not that type of What's on My Phone video. Anyway, this little preface is probably going to extend this video from like 37 minutes long to like 39 minutes long, so I should better wrap it up. So this is my Android in question. It's the Essential phone, the Essential PH1. I made a first impressions video about it a few weeks back. It got somewhat popular, I mean relatively speaking, because the video ended up being like the second search result for Essential phone, and I think it's still up there. That video will give you a good idea as to what I think about the phone overall. My first impressions have changed slightly, and slightly for the better. The touch response issues I was talking about in the video haven't gone away. I've just gotten used to them to the point where it almost doesn't bother me until I use another phone, like my 3-year-old Nexus XP, and I think, wow, the technology in this phone from 2015 is a lot better than the technology in this phone from 2017. That's disappointing. But I don't really use my old phone anymore because it is slow and bad. So this phone is still an upgrade in most other departments, so I take what I can get. I got it for a really good price. I'm still barely in my return window right now. I have a couple more days before my return window runs out. I'm not going to return this phone because for $250, I don't think I could have done any better. Because even though the touch response is worse than many other phones, even for the same price, like $250, it's still ahead of the pack in that price range for most other things that you can gauge a phone's worth by, so I'm going to keep it. And because I'm going to keep it, I have a pretty good setup going on, and I'm going to show it to you in this video. So I don't have a case right now. I got some like cheap $6 TPU case off Amazon that should be arriving sometime this week. I'm not in a rush to slap a case on my phone or any sort of protection. I don't vibe with screen protectors, never have, never will. So screen protectors are not part of my protection plans for phones. My protection plan, I guess, just one, which is just put a freaking case on it. But the phone itself feels like it can take a beating to a reasonable extent. Like if I accidentally drop it, unless the drop is unfortunately angled, I don't feel like it's going to shatter into a million pieces. So I've been dealing without a case for the past few weeks. I haven't dropped it yet because it's pretty grippy. So I feel like I can go caseless with it, and I'm just getting a case just for a backup. I don't even think I'm going to end up using the case most of the time anyway. So I don't have one. The phone feels like it was meant to be used without a case anyway, so there we go. So here's my lock screen, extremely run-of-the-mill for AOSP. And here's my home screen. Now we have a few things going on. Okay, before I get into the setup, I guess I'll talk about the software I'm running, or the firmware more accurately. I'm still running Android 8.1. Now, part of the reason to get the Essential phone, at least as it stands, is because of the update system, if you will, because the Essential phone got Android 9.0 virtually as quickly as Google's own Pixel line did. So Android 9.0, or Android Pie, I don't like the name Pie, honestly. Like, no one cares that I don't like the name, but I just feel like I need it to be said. I feel like they should have went with anything else, even Peppermint. Android Peppermint sounds cool. Android Pie, I know Pie slices is like one of the main features of Pie and whatever. Just don't dig the name much. It launched, and on the same day it was distributed to Pixel phones, it was also distributed to the Essential phone. So it was a same day launch. But since I flashed a custom ROM on 8.1 almost immediately after I got my Essential phone, I didn't feel much of a need to update to 9.0 because arguably the biggest feature of 9.0 is the new gesture navigation thing they have going on. I've been using Pie Control since like 2013 on my Android devices, and I've gotten so accustomed to it, and it works because it's extremely intuitive in my opinion, and it also removes the screen real estate consuming navigation bar that Android has always had, particularly on stock Android, and it's been working for me, and it's the most intuitive form of Android UI navigation in my opinion. So even if I updated to Android 9.0, I'd probably resort to using Pie Control anyway. So with that removed, there isn't really much going on Android 9.0 that I'm really missing out on by staying on 8.1 for the foreseeable future. On my custom ROM with 8.1, I have a lot of features that were eventually added into Android Pie, like the ability, for example, to have your volume buttons automatically default to adjusting media volume instead of call volume. Like, that's a thing on Android Pie now, but the thing with Android Pie is that it doesn't allow you to choose between having it default to media or call, because while I have the option to default to media on my custom ROM on 8.1, I also have the ability to just stick with having it automatically adjust to call volume, which is preferable to me. Like, I don't want my buttons to automatically default to media, but I don't have that choice if I update to stock 9.0. Now, when custom ROMs start coming out with 9.0 as the base, yeah, it would probably make more sense for me to update. Additionally, Essential removed their notch settings that were previously on 8.1 from 9.0 because Google now has their own notch settings on Android Pie. And that results in Essential's notch compatibility not being the best on 9.0. Like, there are a lot of apps that were previously full screen that are apparently not full screen anymore because of Android Pie, and you don't have the option to force full screen on Android Pie because the Essential team removed that ability on Android Pie. So when they introduce an update with their own notch settings, I'm assuming a month from now or so, and after developers start using that build of Android to develop their custom ROMs off of, then I think I'm staying on 8.1. And I'm fine with it. I love stock 8.1, especially with a custom ROM adding like their own Springtomize-like features onto it. All right, anyway. So what is on my Android? Let's go into storage, and I'll show you how much storage I have allocated for each respective category of things. So storage-wise, music is taking up the most space at a pretty sizable 95 gigabytes. My apps are only taking up like 7 gigs or so, and then system's taking up the rest pretty much, which, I mean, 23 gigs for the system seems a bit excessive. That's not, yeah, that's, yeah, oh well. So yes, I am taking full advantage of the 128 gigabyte storage capacity of the phone by loading most of it up with lossless audio files, naturally. Alright, so you might see that my settings app looks slightly different. This is because of a Substratum theme. For my iOS viewers, Substratum is like Winterboard for Android. And this is my Substratum theme. It's called Outline, and it makes most of the system apps like pastel-y. So if I go into Inbox, you'll see that like it's a pastel pink shade instead of the conventional, I believe, blue inbox shade. So it makes most of the system apps look like this. If I go into the Play Store, you see that, yeah. Honestly, I really like this theme. It only costs like $1.99, and it's my favorite Substratum theme out of all the Substratum themes I've ever used, and that's going back quite a few years. And it vibes pretty well with this wallpaper, which I got from Backdrops, which is my go-to wallpaper app. We'll get to that in a second. Granted, this wallpaper is a bit more bold than the general user interface alterations are, but I mean, it's not enough of a discrepancy to like bother me a lot. I still think it's a pretty nice looking user interface overall, at least because of my tweaks or whatever. But of course, I'm giving myself too much credit. So my launcher is Rootless Pixel Launcher. You can download this as an APK on non-rooted devices. My device is rooted with Magisk, but you don't have to be to get this launcher to work. Animations are pretty zippy. I've had no issues with it, and it's customizable enough for me to the point where I don't need another launcher. The only reason I'd really use like a secondary launcher like Nova or Apex or whatever is to use icon packs with it, but Rootless Pixel Launcher allows you to use icon packs. Case in point, these icons are part of an icon pack called Simple Icon. This was a paid icon pack. I think it ran me 99 cents. But it does support like a broad selection of icons. It themes pretty much every icon on my main home screen page, with the only exception being YouTube Vanced, because this is a modified APK, so I don't think it registers that this is actually the YouTube app. So, but it doesn't bother me much. It does theme more icons than virtually every icon pack I've tried, so I think it's worth the like very reasonable entry fee. This clock widget is called Digital Clock Xperia. It's been on my device for years at this point, so most of my other What's on my Android phone or What's on my Nexus 6P videos have this clock like displayed on my initial home screen page. I love it a lot. I mean, it's relatively customizable, it looks nice, love the font, and it's very simplistic, fits with a lot of different setups. I think it's been my go-to clock widget for as long as I can remember, so can't recommend it highly enough, and it's free. Alright, now to the apps. First one I have is the Weather Channel, my go-to weather application. It's been more accurate than AccuWeather, which is like the competitor as far as weather services are concerned. Yeah, accurate, it almost never lets me down. It has all the descriptive elements I'd want in a weather app. It's not too simplistic, but it's not too clunky and overbearing with useless information I don't care about. Has just overall, it's probably the best weather app. I feel like a lot of the other apps that like aggregate weather sources, like Weather Timeline, even though I did buy that and I still have it on my phone, but those sort of apps I never end up opening. Like I always go to the app that directly attunes with its respective source, you know what I mean? I don't know, I don't really dig those aggregate weather apps, probably because they're trying too hard to be simplistic, and for me, I don't know, I don't like that much. I don't know, like on principle it's like a more aesthetically pleasing app, and it has pretty much all the information you get from like the standard Weather Channel app, but for some reason I always end up going to the Weather Channel app if I want to check the weather. So Next we have Twitter, just a stock Twitter client, because all the other Twitter clients for Android are pretty limited thanks to Twitter limiting stuff. But the stock Twitter app is functional enough, and it's themed by this Substratum theme outline, and it looks pretty nice. And of course, Twitter is Twitter. I use it a lot, so it's there. Then Inbox is my go-to email client. I think Gmail's probably being updated more often than Inbox is, but Inbox is my go-to for some reason, probably because I've used it for a long time and it does what it needs to do. Then I have my camera app, which isn't the essential camera app. I actually disabled that in favor of this Google Camera APK that I downloaded. It works well, no shutter lag. I think it's overall a more polished app than the essential camera app is. I think the Essential Camera app is better on Android 9.0, but again, I'm not on 9.0. I'll leave a link to the XDA forum thread that I got this from in the description. It's very good all-around camera app, better user interface than Essentials, and it's faster, at least on 8.1. Maybe Essentials camera app is better on 9.0, but even on 9.0, I can't imagine it being better than this Google camera port. So there's that. Then we have YouTube Vance, which is a modded YouTube app that allows you to like bypass resolution checks, so you can play videos in 4K on a display that doesn't display 4K, because even though it doesn't display 4K natively, the higher bitrate of 4K video can make a video look better even though the display resolution isn't as high as the video, stuff like that. And I think it also allows, I think the stock YouTube app allows picture-in-picture mode even if you don't have YouTube Premium, but not 100% sure. Nevertheless, this is still like a superior version of the YouTube app, more feature-packed, and you don't even have to be rooted. I think it was originally a Magisk module only, but now you can just download it as a straight-up APK. So YouTube Vanced, better version of YouTube. The only drawback for me is that my icon pack doesn't recognize it as the YouTube app. And then we have Vlc Media Player, my go-to media player on Windows and Android. Then WhatsApp, my go-to cross-messaging platform. And then we have Play Music, which I haven't used in weeks now, but it's still there because the icon looks good enough and I don't really have an app that I'd replace it with on my first home screen page, so it's still there. My go-to music streaming service is Tidal. They've been continually updating the user interface, so it's much better than it was like, say, a couple of years ago. That in combination with it being the only music streaming service that has like an endless array of lossless audio makes it my go-to. It's my favorite music streaming service. I haven't tried Spotify Premium actually, but quite frankly I don't care enough to. I'm totally fine paying the $10 a month for Tidal. Now if I had to pay $20 a month, I might resort to Spotify and use it and see if I could end up using it permanently, but at this point I'm a student, so I reap the benefit of only having to pay $10 a month for Tidal, which I'm totally fine with. So I keep using Tidal. Next we have Play Store, just marketplace for applications on Android. Obviously why did I waste 3.5 seconds of everyone's time explaining that? Then we have Maps, Google Maps. It works well enough for me. I don't use Waze or anything else. Partially because I don't drive, so I don't need to like know traffic, at least that descriptively. Google Maps is a good all-around navigation app. Then we have Keep, which is where I keep my to-do lists and grocery list and all that stuff. Then we have Root Browser, which is my go-to application for browsing the file directories on my device and moving stuff around into different folders and all that jazz. Material design updated, and I believe it's free. Then we have Instagram. You all know Instagram. And then we have Discord, which I've been using more frequently to talk to friends of mine that I don't get to see anymore. So I use it often enough for it to graduate to being on my first home screen page. So there you go. And my dock consists of my go-to music player app. If you're over 21, heck, if you're over 12, take a shot every time I say go-to. Bad. This is Foobar 2000. It's a very highly regarded app on Windows. And it's also pretty competent on Android. The main reason I use it is not because of its user interface, because that's pretty utilitarian and occasionally ugly, but it's pretty functional. My entire music library on my hard drive is Apple lossless, so it's .alac. A lot of music players on mobile operating systems don't play well with ALAC. So you're limited to a small library of possible apps you can choose to play those files. And Foobar 2000 just so happens to be one of those few applications. It's not the prettiest app, but it works. I actually like the now playing screen a lot because it sort of gets out of the way and just shows you the bare essentials, much like the Essential phone. It's not too ugly of an app. It doesn't really push material design or material theme as Google's now toting it as, but it works. It's not really that intuitive to make playlists on the fly or like to add to a play queue. It doesn't even have that ability, which is pretty disappointing, just in terms of a music playing app. But usually when I want to play a song or want to play an album, I know what I want to listen to, so I'm going to go straight to that album anyway. Seldom do I need to have like a whole queue of shuffled songs. So that inconvenience doesn't really affect me too much. And it's just a trade-off you're obliged to take if you use a comparatively unsupported file format. So there you go. If you want to see the music I have, the music I'm currently rocking, or I'm listening to most often, which is, it's here because of the fact that I tend to listen to it. Here are the artists. If you want to see, I'll just keep scrolling down, maybe find something you like. But yeah, this is pretty much what I'm listening to nowadays. A lot of 90s post-hardcore, a few smatterings of classic rock in there, 80s post-punk and jangle pop. A bit of 90s alternative rock. Some Midwest emo, of course. And there we go. And a bit of like indie pop circa 2010. So there we go. That's the music. And I will admit it's pretty inconvenient not having a headphone jack on the phone. When I made my first impressions video, I said it didn't really bother me because I used an external jack with my previous phone. That is true to some extent, but I would also resort to on my 6P just using the headphone jack if I wasn't like anal about audio quality at that particular moment. I don't have that convenience with this phone. Because even if I want to use my headphones in a pinch, I have to undergo the same process that I would if I wanted to like analyze the music I was listening to or something. Process goes as follows: trying to find my dongle, hopefully successfully finding my dongle, plugging it in, waiting for Android to recognize the USB device that I just plugged in because it still has to do that, plug in my headphones, wait a couple seconds, and then press play or whatever. It's a lengthy process. It's time-consuming, counterintuitive, and honestly unnecessary. So yeah, it is more inconvenient than I initially let on. So even though most of the other inconveniences with this phone I've sort of learned to live with over the last few weeks, that has grown more annoying as time has gone on. So yeah. Next we have the Android Messages app. I like how now you can use it on the web, so it's pretty convenient having a text conversation while typing on your laptop. It's a nice thing to have. Then we have my go-to Reddit client, which is Relay for Reddit. We can go into it. Looks nice. Never had the need to look for other Reddit apps since this works so seamlessly for me. And yeah, this is my go-to Reddit client. Highly recommend it if you're looking for one. Then we have the phone app followed by Google Chrome. Pretty standard stuff. Then if we swipe to the right, this is my Google Now or whatever they're calling it nowadays. It comes stock, of course, with Pixel Launcher. And if we scroll to the left, here's my calendar widget. So it's nice to have. I don't plan too many things on a calendar. I'm not like one of those people who like have their phone calendar stocked with meeting dates and stuff like that. I always keep that in a Google Keep document. For some reason, I've never transferred over directly putting it on like a virtual calendar. I just look at it to see if it's like, oh, I have something going on the 28th. How long is that from now? Okay, I can visually see it's like 2 weeks in a day, that sort of thing. And also sometimes I just see what day of the week it is. This is called Month Calendar Widget, I believe. We'll get into it in the app drawer. We'll swipe up. First app we have is AccuBattery. This was one app that was pretty important to me when I had a 6P because my battery life on the 6P was offensive. It was really bad, so I had to always monitor my battery health because I was always afraid it would like sharply drop over the course of a week because the batteries in Next 6Ps are extremely unpredictable. Nowadays, since I have a phone that has a seemingly competent battery, I don't really need this app. I just still like having it. I mean, my battery health is at 100%. It probably will be for a while because Essential probably had half a brain when they were making this phone and, putting the batteries in them. But it's still there. I mean, it doesn't take up much space, so why not have it there? Then we have AccuWeather. I still, bounce back and forth between AccuWeather and the Weather Channel, even though I end up trusting the Weather Channel more. But yeah, it's still there. Then we have the Amazon shopping app. Then we have Aptoide, which is like a pirated app marketplace. Don't use it though. I don't have a pirated app on this phone. I just have it there like as an in-case thing. Like when I had Installus on my iPod, I never really used Installus. It was too cumbersome to use. It just wasn't as convenient as just buying an app for 99 cents. So I could use it in the event that I needed it. That event just seldom, if ever, came up. So, but it's still there. Then we have Audio FX, which is a system-wide audio equalizer that came with my ROM, because my ROM, although it's AICP, it is based on Lineage OS base, so it comes with a lot of Lineage OS apps that I had to disable. This app for some reason cannot be disabled, so I have to leave it there, even though I use Viper for Android as a system-wide equalizer. Fortunately, Viper for Android overrides Audio FX, so I don't really need to disable it. I just wish I could, so I could remove this stupid app. But it's still there. Then we have backdrops. This is my go-to wallpaper app. Really extensive collection, a lot of exclusives. I really like it. It's my favorite wallpaper application. This combined with Google's default wallpapers gives me pretty much all the wallpaper options I need. So I don't really need to look elsewhere. I do have, I think, another wallpaper app on my phone, but I've never set a wallpaper from it, so it's pretty much disposable at this point. But yeah, here we go. Love it. Really nice. Has a lot of AMOLED wallpapers. Wish I had an AMOLED display. Then we have the calculator app, followed by the calendar app, followed by the camera app, all stock apps. Then we have Chrome, the Clean Master. This is like, most people would consider this to be like a spam app that doesn't really do much, but it does delete some space. Like if I do this right now, like for all I know, this could just be BS, and there isn't really almost 2 gigs of junk for the app to clean up. But I don't care. I'm naive enough to like believe it, and usually I do see like a little storage bump after using the app, so it must not be entirely BS. So I've always been using it, and it has, like, you can always disable the crap it puts in the notification shade, so it really doesn't harm anything, unless, like, unbeknownst to me, it's collecting data from my device that it's putting on its servers or whatever. But even if, I don't care enough. It's not like I have anything too damning aside from like bank information. Never mind. Moving on. Then we have clock followed by contacts. CPU Z, of course, allows you to monitor your CPU cores. This is kind of moot because I have a kernel manager app that tells me this anyway, but it's still there since it's literally like a megabyte of space taken up by the app, so whatever. Then we have Crossy Road, one of the few games I have on my phone. It looks nice on this display. Shh. Oh, it's fine. It's not loud enough. Oh, that's pretty loud. Like, I'm not good at this game, but it's a nice time waster. And it looks pretty cool, like, on this display. It's like, yeah, I still can't get over how nice full screen games look on this. Then we have Dark Sky, which is a hyper-local weather forecasting app that's pretty useful for precipitation, but its temperature readings are pretty off base. I don't understand. Like, it's not going to be in the mid, like, this was previously forecasted to be like 101, 102, like a couple of days ago, but of course it lowered it down to like reasonable readings. Like, it's not like, don't get this app for the temperature readings, get it for the pretty impressive precipitation forecasting. For me, it's of no use though. The precipitation forecasting is of no use in LA, so it might as well not exist on my phone right now. But when I go back to Florida, it could be pretty useful, except for the fact that I know it's going to rain almost every day in Florida, so I don't need it on that end of the extreme, you know. Okay, then we have the clock widget I talked about, followed by Discord, Google Docs, Doodle Jump, again, another simple time-wasting game. It goes full screen, which is nice. I think this might be because my custom ROM forces apps to go full screen even though they don't support Essentials Notch. So that might be the case, but if that's, I mean, I'm not complaining. That works for me. But there is a caveat to this, and there's no option for me to change it. So it's not like Essentials Notch settings in 8.1, which allowed you to, like, adjust it on a per app basis. This custom ROM forces it for every app, which means that there are some apps that will straight up crash on me, like, well, particularly games, not really apps, but like there are a couple games I installed that would straight up crash because of the fact that my ROM forces those games to go full screen and something doesn't compute with that app, so the app doesn't function. Like, it sucks, but it isn't deal breaking enough for me to not use this ROM. You know, it has so many other like baked in features that I'm content not playing a game I wanted to play. You know what I mean? Needless to say, I mean, I'm not going to show you Doodle Jump because it requires me to like, well, you all know Doodle Jump. This has been around for like the entire freaking decade. But it's one of the few games I've come back to over the years. So I have it. Then we have Google Drive, followed by Microsoft Edge, which is a pretty good browser. I still use Chrome over it, but I do use Edge on my desktop, particularly on my work laptop, because Edge is less battery sucking than Chrome is on Windows. So I resort to that. So it has all of my bookmark settings that transfer over to Edge for Android. So it's nice to have as a secondary browser, even though I almost never use it. Then we have Yex Kernel Manager. I don't have Elemental X as my kernel, but it's still a good kernel manager nonetheless, and it allows me to overclock and underclock and whatever, but I mainly use it, I use it to adjust like the CPU and GPU governor, so if I want max GPU performance, I can go to graphics and then set it to performance. Keep in mind that you do need a custom kernel in order to make these changes. My custom kernel just came with my ROM, so I didn't like flash an additional one, just to clarify, if that was necessary. Then we have Facetune, which is a photo retouching app that a lot of people use. Then we have Fast Times, which allows me to check train and bus times for the Chicago Transit Authority. I'm not in Chicago right now, but I still have it there because I'm going to be in Chicago for the next 3 years, more or less. Then we have Files, just the standard Android Files app. Then we have Flood, which is my go-to torrent client. Very functional, minimal, istic. Then Foobar 2000, of course, followed by the AOSP Gallery app, I believe. Then the Gboard app, followed by Geekbench. I have there for some reason or another. Not useful. If I need that 90 megabytes that it takes up, I'll probably delete it. It'll probably be the first app I delete. Then we have Glow Hockey, one of the time-wasting games that I have on my phone. It looks pretty nice in full screen, even though it is forced to be in full screen because of how the ROM manages apps, but still looks really nice nonetheless, even though you can tell it's a stretched resolution and not a native 1312p or whatever the resolution of the display is. I'm losing, of course, because I'm not paying attention to the actual thing, but yeah, it's a nice time waster, and it looks nice when it's forced in full screen despite it not being native. Then we have Google Pay. I haven't started using Google Pay, though I think it would be a huge relief for me instead of having to like fish around for cards in my bag. Never got around to it though, but it should be it should be one of the things I should do to just improve my life just on all accounts, but I never got to it yet. Then we have Groupon, followed by blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'll only mention apps I haven't mentioned before. How's that? We have Inst Followers. Allows you to, check your follower status, see who's following, who unfollowed, all that stuff. It's a very good app if you're insecure about your online influence. Then we have Vlc Manager, which is, it's like, to boil it down for the Android handicap, like if you use iOS devices, it's sort of like Cydia for Android, but it's a bit different. Like Magisk is the main root solution for Android because it's systemless, so it doesn't affect your ability to use Android Pay or Google Pay more accurately. Like previous root solutions force you to give up, so it doesn't affect the system. So they have like this whole monopoly on Android routing. So they have basically a free marketplace of tweaks, if you will, from developers that allow you to do things like block ads and add like system privileges and all that stuff. So I'll show you the modules I have, or like the tweaks I have. So I have Aptoide Priv, which allows me to make Aptoide a privileged app. I just did it because I could. I mean, I don't like I'm going to stress again, I don't use Aptoide. This makes it seem like it's important enough for it to be a system app for me. It's just because I have the ability to make it a system app. It was like one click. It's not because I use it. Yeah, it's really unbecoming of me, I know. Then I have a system-wide font that I applied. As you were probably able to tell if you're familiar with Android fonts, my font throughout the video hasn't been the stock font because I changed it to Helvetica Neue, which is available in the Magisk marketplace. It's not called that, but that's what I'm going to call it, even though it's not a marketplace. But I really like how this font looks, even compared to Google's new Product Sans font on Android Pie. I just think this is a really beautiful font. And I'm a sucker for Helvetica Neue. I flashed a Helvetica Neue system-wide file on my 6P, so I had to carry the torch onto my Essential phone. It's my favorite font, so what are you going to do? Well, of course, flash it. Then I have Busybox, which allows me to use terminal apps to adjust things on a terminal level. We'll get to my go-to terminal app in a sec. I do have Google Product Sans installed but not applied, so if I want to change to the Product Sans font, I can. Then I have iOS 11.1 emoji, which allows me to use iOS 11.1 emojis basically on virtually any keyboard app I choose or any keyboard. So I use Gboard, but I don't like Google's emojis, so I changed them to iOS's superior emojis. And that's one of the many things you can use root access for. Isn't it splendid? Then we have Unified Host Adblock, which allows me to universally block ads, whether it be in the browser or banner ads in like free apps. Like I'll whitelist some ads and apps that I feel don't use ads intrusively, but for like games that bombard you with ads every 10 seconds, I have like little to no sympathy for that, so those ads are getting blocked. I'm sorry. Then my last module is Viper for Android, so that should take care of most of the system changes. So system-wide theme is outline. Well, we'll get to that in a second, actually. So back we go. Okay, so I do have two messaging apps. This is Android Messages, the one I use, and then Lineage OS's messaging app. I can't get rid of it though. So much like the audio effects app, I can't disable this app. So it's annoying. I wish I could just subtract that. I probably can if I try hard enough, but I mean, I've tried removing audio FX through like App Systemizer and like Titanium Backup. I tried. I just couldn't scrub it off my device, and I feel like it's the same thing for the messaging app, even though I could be wrong and it could be easily removable, but it's still not able to be disabled through just normal means, which makes me think that I can't get rid of it. I don't have too much of an issue with it though. It just occasionally annoys me if I see it in the app drawer, but other than that, I just don't use it. Then of course we have the calendar widget I was talking about. Yeah, pretty simple. App is somewhat useless. Well, that's not true. You can probably customize how it looks, so it's probably the opposite of useless. Let's see what else. OmniSwitch, I think that's an app switcher replacement, but I don't use it just because it came with a ROM and you can't remove it. One of those unremovable apps. What else? PIA VPN, that's my go-to VPN across all my platforms. It cost me like $40 a month and it's pretty reliable. I didn't do too much research into like all the other VPNs. Private internet access was just a reasonable price and it was a VPN, so that was enough to win me over. And I've had nothing but like positive experiences with it over the past year or so that I've used it. So that's that. Then we have Play Books, followed by Play Games. Okay, let's stop mentioning that. Then we have Google Podcasts. This is, I think, a new app. I used to use Play Music to listen to podcasts, but now Google Podcasts is a thing. So the user interface is much better than Play Music's user interfaces. So I use it for podcasts now, especially since I don't really use Play Music even for music anymore. Then we have Simple Pi, which is my Pi control application. Really like it. It's so intuitive. makes everything full screen, and I mean, it's just my way of navigating. I think it's better than the pill on Android Pie. I think it's overall the best way to use my phone, so I've been using it for a long time, really. Sleep is my go-to alarm app on Android. It allows you to sleep monitor, and it also has a few alarm clock sounds that I like that I can't find in Google's clock app. So yeah, I do recommend it. It's like 99 cents, but I think it's a superior alarm app to what Google offers natively. And then here's Substratum, again, Winterboard for Android. I have Outline and Transparent. Transparent isn't like fully supported on Android Oreo, but I bought it a few years back and used it all the time on my 6P, so I have it there just in case. There is partial support for it, it's just not, as well supported as it was on like Marshmallow. So it still deserves to be there, I think, because it's still a really good theme all around. It's just not fully decked out on Oreo. Next, then we have Swappa, which a lot of you are aware of. It's like eBay, but a tighter ship than eBay is, mostly because it's smaller and thus far more manageable. Then we have Termux, which is my terminal of choice. Let's see what's next. Touchdown Hero, again, another time killer. Full screen is forced, but even when it's forced, doesn't cover the entire display, so it provides the illusion of a really large chin. But that's just how this ROM manages apps. Oh, this is basically the gist of... Okay, enough of that. Still, nice game to have. Then we have Traffic Racer, another time killer. Let's see, True Skate. Most of you probably know that one. A couple bucks, but it's a good time. Uber Eats, which I haven't used yet, but I feel like I'm gonna use it sometime soon. I mean, I don't know. I haven't had the occasion of being lazy enough to have someone bring me McDonald's. That's a point in my life that I haven't reached yet. Fingers crossed that it's going to be a while until I reach that point, but then we have Ultimate, what is this? Oh, I don't want to tote my device for this, but Ultimate Car Driving Simulator, which is, it's a decent looking driving simulator, and by that I mean you just move a car around a screen. It's not like anything super serious, but it beats downloading like those 1 gig Asphalt games for like, I don't know, for nothing, honestly, because they microtransaction you any chance they get. Then we have Venmo, then Virtual Wallet, which is my bank managing app for PNC Bank, which I lost my debit card in Los Angeles, and there are no PNC banks on the West Coast, so I had to go without a debit card for a solid month. Taught me a lesson, which was if you're wearing jeans with really small pockets, don't put your debit card in it because it might fall out, thus inconveniencing you for a good 4 weeks. Next we have Wall of Fame, the other wallpaper app that is not as good, really. There aren't as many appealing wallpapers here, and most of them seem to be 1080p, so not 1440p, which is the resolution of wallpaper I'm looking for, so might as well delete it sometime soon. Then we have just the Google Wallpapers. I didn't know this was an app, but apparently it is. Then we have Weather Timeline, one of those aesthetically pleasing weather apps I was talking about before. Like, it's nice and everything, it's just unnecessary to me, because like, I don't need all this hoopla. I'd rather have the 7-day forecast like shown to me horizontally instead of vertically. This just seems more cumbersome, but it's there because it looks nice and I paid for it. Then we have Weather Underground, which is like, it's very accurate, but the application just it needs some work, and the Weather Channel and Weather Underground are pretty much interchangeable, so I just stick with the Weather Channel as my go-to, but I still have Underground here because sometimes there are hyper-specific weather stations that it takes data from that might be more accurate than the Weather Channel data. So then we have WeatherBug, another weather app, again weather station based, so could potentially be more accurate for some areas, which is why I still why I have it in addition to Weather Underground, Weather Timeline, AccuWeather. You can never have too many sources. Well, that's not true. You can have so many sources that you don't know which one to trust. But anyway, then we have WhatsApp, then Yelp, of course Yelp, and those are pretty much all the applications I have. Again, I think that's everything. This is all part of Outline, makes everything this pastel-y maroon color, changes the quick settings tiles to look this way. Overall, really nice theme. I can't recommend it enough. Let's check storage, see if there's anything I forgot to mention. Nope, I don't think so. I can show you my ROM settings maybe. Again, I'm running AICP. Has some nice tweaks. Here are my options. You can do like little things like playback control, make your volume buttons change tracks, all that stuff that you can't do on stock ROMs, even on 9.0. So that's why I think it's more reasonable for me to stay on 8.1 until, for the foreseeable future, because I'm more than content with my setup right now. And I don't feel like backing stuff up and then reapplying it and then going through that whole charade a second time. Disable the navigation bar through this, so I could replace it with Pi controls. Yeah. I'll leave a link to this in the description, the ROM. I mean, it's pretty easy to find on the Essential Phone XDA page, but one of my favorite tweaks in this ROM is the screen off animation, which is like this. And I don't know, I think it kind of meshes with the whole blocky aesthetic of the phone itself. So yeah, that is pretty much it. If there was anything I forgot to mention, be sure to voice off in the comments. Of course, that's the only place to do it, and it makes sense to. Yeah, this video's been long enough, I feel, so gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for watching. You've just been Even Design, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, guys, later.